Federal Member for Upper McKellar to share her insights on this auspicious occasion. Thank you.
Hello everyone, and thank you so much for having me here. I'm very delighted to be invited to join you and your community in celebrating this very, very auspicious occasion, the 89th birthday of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I would firstly like to acknowledge the dignitaries here today. Dr. Gyel Lola, who is a professor and educational sociologist and Tibetan specialist. He's the special guest here today. I'd also like to thank and acknowledge President Chosen La, President of the New South Wales Tibetan Community of Australia, and Vice President Tsering La. I'd also like to say hello and acknowledge Zoe Bedford, who is the Executive Officer of Tibet Australia Council, and Mayor Sue Hines. So thank you. I'd also like to thank all the dignitaries here today, and of course the wider Tibetan community. Thank you all for being here. I'd also like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional custodians of this land that we're meeting on today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and thank them for caring for this land and this coastline since time immemorial. We have a lot to learn from their age-old wisdom.
실어나 네 그차 공화대만 모두
Kulunzo olehul tuzergi tumijang service comes like umramba gelola su chakra shikuyu.
May I request Chief Guest Honorable Dr. Sophie Scott, Federal Member of McKellar, to present a token of appreciation to Dr. Gillard.
Hello. I'm Dr. Zoe Bedford from the Australia Tibet Council, and I'll just start today by paying my respects to the First Nations people, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I want to pay respects to elders past and present, because of course today we're gathered here on their land. We're here today to say happy birthday to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And as many of you know, that this year has been a very busy year, and we've had here to Australia the visit of the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi in March, and then the Chinese Premier Li Qiang in June. And I want to thank people in this room for showing up and saying free Tibet when these Chinese CCP leaders have visited Australia. Firstly, I want to thank Chosen and Pasangla for working with the Australia Tibet Council and making the message of free Tibet being heard loud and clear in Canberra during these visits. And I also want to thank you, the members of the Tibetan community from Sydney who travelled down to Canberra and joined with the Canberra Tibetan community and others to make sure the message was heard loud and clear by CCP leaders like Li Qiang. And we know it was heard. You can see it on the news footage that we actually saw our protests and heard our protests and heard you all saying, free Tibet and long live the Dalai Lama. So well done to all of you who came to that day. The Tibetan flag was raised high over Canberra that day, and I congratulate you. Thank you. It's so important for us all to keep showing up and to keep giving this message to CCP officials. And most important, it is for us to give the message to the Australian government. Because if we weren't there, if we didn't show up, they would be silent about human rights and they would be silent about Tibet. But we won't let them be silent. The Australia Tibet Council has proved that Australians stand in solidarity with Tibetans and will continue to do so until Tibet is free. This week, Australia Tibet Council and Dr. Gallo travelled to Canberra once more to meet with Australian parliamentarians and ask them to take action for Tibet. We've been speaking to Australian parliamentarians about China's colonial boarding schools and the 1 million Tibetan children who have been taken from their families and separated, completely disconnected from their culture, their language and religion. We've been speaking to parliamentarians about China's transnational repression of Tibetans here in Australia and how China tries to silence Tibetans from protest and how China threatens their families who remain in Tibet. We've made that message clear to the Australian government that they need to do more to protect you. And all of you are so brave for coming to our protest and making your voices heard. We're asking the Australian government to raise Tibet at the UN, but also to take action here in Australia by issuing Magnitsky sanctions against CCP officials responsible for the gross human rights violation of Tibetans. The Dalai Lama currently is in the USA to receive medical treatment, and we wish for him, of course, a speedy return to full health so that he can continue to spiritually guide Tibetan people. And we recognise the importance of the Dalai Lama for Tibetan people and others all around the world. We wish for him a long and healthy life. It's auspicious that the Dalai Lama will be in the USA for his birthday, as both the US Senate and Congress, in a bipartisan agreement, have passed the Promoting a Resolution to the Sino-Tibet Conflict Act. And this act recognises the Tibetan people's right to self-determination and to decide their own future. This act in the USA confirms the State Department's responsibility to work with other governments, including the Australian government, in a multilateral effort towards the goal of a negotiated resolution to the Sino-Tibet conflict, with the stated goal of having the Chinese government return in good faith to the negotiating table with His Holiness the Dalai Lama to resolve this conflict using non-violence. Australian Tibet Council is asking the Australian government to join their USA counterparts and work for a peaceful resolution to the Sino-Tibet conflict. This week in Parliament, MPs and Senators have heard the personal account of Dr. Gallo, who's an eyewitness to the colonial boarding schools, especially the preschools in Tibetan, where they're taking children who are just 4, 5 and 6 years old away from their families in an attempt to systematically annihilate Tibetan language, religion, culture and identity. And so it's for this reason that it's important that the Australian government affirms their support for Tibet and promotes and supports the negotiated end to the Sino-Tibet conflict. There's always more that the Australian government can do for Tibet, and Australian Tibet Council will continue to work with them and demand that they do it. But today is for the Dalai Lama. So we wish His Holiness the Dalai Lama much happiness on the occasion of his 89th birthday, and we support his efforts for a peaceful future for Tibet. Most importantly, we hope that the Dalai Lama may be able to return to his home as a free Tibet within his lifetime. And this is what Australian Tibet Council will be working for and what we hope to achieve. For His Holiness the Dalai Lama to see his homeland once again, and for that homeland to be a free Tibet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Zoe Bedford. Now, a group called Snow Girl will now perform a dance.
Old as me. He and I have agreed we're going to meet once a year, every year, until one of us moves on. Happy birthday, Your Holiness, and every God's blessing on all the Tibetan people. It must feel like nothing is changing, nothing changes. It must feel like that. And this can go on for a long, long time, and then in an instant, everything can change. What's really wonderful about the Tibetan people is that the Chinese government has been really stupid, you know, because what they did was by oppressing the Tibetan people and their religion, they released their religion to the whole world, and the whole world has benefited, the whole world. Through His Holiness and through loving compassion, we realise that that is the only way. All wars do, as we see in Gaza at the moment, all wars do is create more wars and more hatred. The way of the future is the way of lovingness, peace and loving compassion. And so, all I want to say is God bless Your Holiness. May you live another 100 years, 89 years. We will get, as gets older, he gets frailer. And as he gets frailer, we have to get stronger. We have to get stronger to keep that energy that he has given to all these people and the whole world, to give it all to us. And we have to share that with one another. It's getting to the point now where we need to do the energy. And we see it all with the children. For so many years I've been coming here, and every year there are more and more Tibetan people. And the world and Australia is so much better for that. So God bless His Holiness. And one day the Chinese government will crumble. It will crumble. It will crumble. But the Tibetan religion, the loving compassion of His Holiness will live forever. So God bless His Holiness. Happy birthday. May there be many more. And may Tibet be free. Amen.